to have a unit, to the degree that you take a postmodern perspective, you recognize that this is a pen and it's a weapon and it's orange and it's cylinder and it's plastic and it's a doorstop and. The postmodern perspective says each of those perspectives is legitimate. Right now, the postmodern perspective can also recognize blue. Wrong. It's orange. It is not blue. Right? We can look at it from multiple perspectives, but there is still right and wrong within each of those perspectives. As Ayn Rand would say, knowledge is contextual. Her postmodern insight is that knowledge is contextual, right? But if a postmodern perspective, and this is Jordan Peterson's critique of what he calls postmodern neo-marxism, because he says, look, postmodernism says all of these perspectives have a degree of legitimacy. Absolutely. That's absolutely the case, right? But that doesn't mean that each one of them allows you to navigate the territory with equal grace or with equal power, right? In fact, there's very few interpretations that actually lead to real power, to lead to you actually being able to create a good life, to create a good society, to create things that last through time.
Yes.
Right? In this quadrant model, right? It's really only the top right section that's really what we want. It's science and sanity.
That's right. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The rest of it is increasingly bad. And the key is we want to get to increasingly good things that take into account the multiple perspectives, but also get us good results. And he says the postmodern neo-Marxists take the postmodern perspective, which allows them to decenter merit and patriarchy and logic and science and the existing knowledge systems, the existing structures of society as we know them. The postmodern part of it, they take postmodernism and decenter it. They say it's not the only interpretation. We're going to de-privilege you. We're going to ask you to check your privilege. You think that your perspective is the right perspective. And we're going to say that that's a position of privilege. That from your position of privilege, you don't even have to think about the fact that it's a weapon. You can just declare it to be legitimate. And that's a position of privilege. And we want you to check your privilege. We want you to question that the pen is the only way to see this thing. We want you to give the idea that it's a weapon legitimacy. And that's postmodernism. And that is, I think, completely a legitimate analysis. It's valuable. If you don't do that, it's because you've got a semantic disturbance and you're not doing science and you're not looking at the philosophical, like you're not like dealing with the thing. You're making your own univariate analysis in which you delegitimize the variables that you're not looking at.
Well, you have a worldview that doesn't include that, right?
Yes,
and you say
yes.
that's
And you're identified with that worldview, both in terms of it is an identification, it is reified, it is a non-flexible structure, it is dogmatic. And most likely, you've identified yourself with that structure, and therefore you experience attacks on that structure as attacks on yourself, so you feel like a victim and become self-righteous and attack. Right? Okay, so there's that. But then Jordan Peterson says, however, if we're going to consider all of the perspectives, we then need to look at, okay, which perspectives are useful in creating real results? Right? So some are better, but we need to consider them in order to figure out which one is better. And we can't just privilege one of them. I agree with you in your postmodern perspective. You can't just say one of these is right. That would be a univariate analysis. That would be to become dogmatic, to identify. And he says, so now you've got not only postmodernism, but neo-Marxism. So people in the social justice milieu, as he describes it, right, they take on postmodernism, which allows them to deprivilege existing culture. Legitimately, to say it is not the only way of being, it is not the only perspective. There are, in fact, multiple perspectives. This is not only a pen, it is a weapon. But then they say it's only a weapon. The only thing that matters about this is that it's a weapon, and they turn it into a new semantic disturbance, a new thing.
That's right.
So you can't, like he says, you can't have postmodernism and neo-Marxism. It's one or the other. Right? Because if you take postmodernism seriously, then you can't privilege the Marxist perspective. You can't privilege the structural oppression narrative. That would be rigid. That would be tyrannical.
They would be kind of replacing one tyrannical source with another tyrannical source.
Yes. Yes. And so if I have a critique of Jordan Peterson, this is one of my critiques of Jordan Peterson, is that he associates postmodern neo-Marxism with chaos. And I don't think it's chaos, it's tyranny.